Welcome everybody. My name is Garrett Sussman. I am the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Grade Us. Been with the company for about 3 years. And today I'm doing this webinar on how to create a compelling sales pitch for review management. The goal of this webinar is really to provide some insights in terms of those value propositions that would help you sell this as a service. We have a variety of different types of customers at Grade Us, whether you're a consultant, an agency, a reseller, whether you're selling review management as its own individual service, or whether it's complementing another one of your services, whether that's we have customers who sell along with SEO services, social media marketing services, just local search and listings management. There's a variety of ways to sell it, but it's interesting the way you kind of start from the get-go and kind of talk to prospects about the value of reviews. So during this webinar, I will take questions at the end and try to answer a few, dive into some specific questions that people might have, specific situations. I am writing this solo, so I will try to keep my eyes peeled on the chat. But I will dive in. I really appreciate everyone joining me today on this Friday afternoon on the East Coast. Like I said, I'm Garrett. I've done marketing for Grade Us for the past 3 years. I read and kind of execute a lot on review management and in the kind of local search context. So that's kind of where my background is and my insights. I did a little marketing before for another SaaS company, but I geek out over local marketing and local search, and I hope all of you do too. Okay, so mapping out your compelling sales pitch. What we're going to talk about in this webinar today is what's your prospect starting point. I think there's a lot of value in knowing where your prospects are coming from and how to talk to them. What type of prospects are you pitching? So knowing a little bit about that audience ahead of time. The basic elevator pitch. So when you only have, kind of a moment to talk about, what your service is, or, keeping it very simple on a landing page or on your website copy. And then talking about some tools that are a little more advanced research that for your prospect pitch. So kind of if you do have the opportunity to do research ahead of time of the pitch, then what you can do, what are the tools you can use, and how you can be more prepared for when you're getting in front of your prospects. So what is your prospect starting point? Everyone comes from a different sort of area. It was funny, among our team, we were just talking about what's the Grade Us elevator pitch? What do we say when we're talking to someone? And my initial question was, well, it really depends on who you're talking to. So where are they coming from? Did they find you, or are you finding them? Is this someone who's coming to your website and you're getting them on the phone? Or are you doing an kind of outbound sales campaign? Those are two very different types of prospect conversations. They're either ready for you and they're looking for your service, or you're coming at them and they're not expecting you. That's a different type of conversation. Are they doing any digital marketing? If you're working with a small business that has not ever done any sort of digital marketing and you want to sell them review management or SEO or social media marketing, are they going to know what SEO is? Are they going to do any social media themselves? Are they only on Facebook versus knowing Twitter or, Pinterest or Snapchat? Having that sort of context is going to be important to your pitch. Their digital marketing sophistication in terms of, what are their goals, and do they even know their own goals? So, it's a different conversation to be able to talk about generating customers and sales versus website traffic and click-through rates and search engine rankings. So knowing those kind of different attributes of the person that you're talking to will inform the way that you want to pitch them. If someone doesn't have any sort of experience with digital marketing, you're probably going to come more from a kind of visual, visceral type of perspective of getting reviews for your company, getting a 5-star rating, being at the top on Yelp or Facebook or Google. Whereas, if they have a little more digital sophistication, you can start talking about, how by improving their SEO, you're going to improve their rankings, which is going to improve their click-through rate, which is going to generate more traffic and tie that more to your sales. You know, a small mom and pop business that hasn't done any sort of digital marketing on their own is going to want some more of those high level metrics, as opposed to someone who is the marketing director for, you know, a multi-location organization that is going to want to see more ROI, result on investment. So knowing ahead of time of where you are, where your prospects are coming from, is going to help you make that pitch more compelling. What type of prospects are you pitching? So knowing the industry, I mean, we have a lot of customers at Grade Us that are industry agnostic. However, if you know the industry, there are specific nuances for each industry. Pitching a lawyer is different than pitching someone in the home services industry. You know, pitching a photographer or wedding planner in the wedding industry is going to be different than someone, you know, who works in like kitchen supplies or even just retail. There are different kind of needs there. Higher low volume customers. So service industry, like they might have a lot less customers, but each of the sale value of their services of your clients are going to be high value. So it's a low volume customer. So each one of those reviews is going to be significantly more valuable, but maybe that much harder to get. Whereas if you're in the restaurant business and you have, you know, 20, 50, 100 customers every single day, that's going to be a different type of processes. And speaking of restaurants, is it going to be easy or hard to get their email addresses or phone numbers? You know, knowing that from your prospect based on their industry ahead of time is going to kind of impact how you position it in the first place as well. You have a different challenge if, you know, someone is a retail store where you're not collecting emails very easily, or you need to put other systems in place, whether that's, you know, a Wi-Fi email capture system or getting phone numbers at the reception desk. Do they have tons of competition or no competition? You're going to have different goals and different types of pitches based on where they're at. You know, if you are pitching to a lawyer in a city in a high density area of other lawyers, that's a whole different type of competition as to whether you're in a suburban area or in a rural area and there really isn't competition and there's really that bare minimum. A lot of review management has to do with the competition and how you stand out, whether your client's business, you know, has the most visibility and credibility in comparison to their competition. Who's their target audience and their age demographic, you know? So thinking about knowing whether your prospect is working with younger, you know, kids and teenagers or college students or young professionals. You know, if you're tying review management to social media, it's going to be tied more to, you know, Twitter and Snapchat. Whereas if you have an older demographic, or even Yelp when it comes to reviews, if you're working with an older demographic, they might be looking at completely different review sites. So they might be more Better Business Bureau or Facebook even for recommendations. It's really interesting how the target audience and the demographic is going to influence, you know, the way you're going to try and focus on reviews. Ultimately, Google reviews are always going to be the most important, but you know, the demographics definitely impact that secondary review site and where you get reviews. And then technology disrupted industry. I mean, is it more of an old school industry? Going back to lawyers, now they're catching up and you're seeing more lawyers adopt technologies, but it's a traditionally older technology. A lot of older B2Bs, you know, might not have that same sort of technology advantage. And so, you know, they might depend on getting them on the phone, using SMS texting and using emails as opposed to more advanced technologies. And then finally, it's important to think about where you're pitching. So going back to the inbound, outbound, are you sending a cold email? Are you going to a networking event and having face-to-face conversations and basically seeding the idea of the value proposition? And then with the goal of taking it to a either phone call next or getting them to a face-to-face meeting? Is it a group presentation at an event? You know, so maybe you went to your local chamber of commerce, you offered to do a pitch and do a webinar or do a slide presentation, and then that's going to be a different pitch, especially with giving the contact info at the end of it, than an individual one-to-one face-to-face conversation. And then digital pitches just on your website, on ads, in your emails, in a webinar, as we're seeing here, and outbound sales calls. All of those are going to have slightly different tailored messages, and that's something you need to think about before you put the pitch together. So when we're talking about the most simplest version of the elevator pitch, it usually comes down to a basic formula. And so you're going to want to try and at least think about the objections, fears, and questions of the prospects. Now, in the basic elevator pitch, you're not going to address every single issue. That's for those maybe secondary conversations when you have more preparation done and you're getting closer and closer to the proposal. When it comes to the ingredients of your pitch, you're going to think about three main aspects: the psychological triggers. So what is going to, kind of resonate with the prospect? How are you going to get their attention? What are their pain points? The review management value. So what are you offering? Like, how are you helping them? And then the compelling offer, which is, whether or not they can afford it, what sort of results are you going to produce? How is that going to help your prospect's business? And then we're going to talk about putting it all together in the end. So what are some of these objections that you might hear from your prospects? Your agency offers review management services. What's in your client's head? So they might come from a variety of different places, and this really ties back to who your prospects are and where you're pitching. But they might be, comparison buying based on price. They might be thinking, you're so expensive, you're too expensive for me. Just even the trust factor from the get-go. They think, you want my credit card, and I don't feel comfortable paying with a credit card. That might be an objection. I don't need reviews for my business. They might not understand the review ecosystem and just why reviews impact a business and how they might be losing out to competitors based on not doing anything for reviews. Or they might think to themselves, I can do it myself. I don't need to pay someone to help me get reviews. Whereas that's an opportunity for you to kind of show the value that you're going to give them. But these are some of the objections that might be going on in their head before they even listen to you talk about how you're going to offer your service to them in their business. What are their fears? And this is a big point, especially for business owners or people who are responsible to like a higher up to producing value, whether that's a marketer. And there are a bunch of different types of decision makers for these businesses: the marketer, the business development rep, the salesperson, the C-suite, the owner. So what's in their head when it comes to their fears? They might think that you just want their money. They don't know the first thing about review management. And so they, are afraid that you might just take the money and run. They want to know what they're even going to get for their money, if anything. Like, are they just sinking money into a non-value proposition? Is it a waste? I'm barely making it as is. How can this agency help me? So they might not see how reviews are a key part of marketing to generate business. Is your agency even trustworthy? How do I know that you know what you're doing? Which kind of will go into some of these psychological triggers that we'll talk about. What if you don't know the specifics of my industry and the unique issues that I deal with? Which kind of goes back to how a home service business might be dealing with different issues than a legal industry. And that's actually an opportunity for you, especially if you're pitching to a specific industry that you are an expert on, to show how you know about that industry by empathizing with specific issues that they're dealing with. And then a big one is, what if I get bad reviews? And so, Google makes that a little trickier with review gating, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But that's a major fear. That's a major fear for a lot of business owners. And there are a couple of ways that we can address that fear. And then questions. How do the reviews create revenue and cash flow for my business? They might not be able to connect the dots. You know, they might see reviews and that doesn't necessarily translate to new customers or sales in their mind. Why do reviews matter? So, you know, whether it's the, you know, kind of bare, visceral, anecdotal kind of version of reviews, which is, you know, just someone telling them that they're doing a good job with their business and, you know, making an impact on their life. I need X amount of leads. How will review management give me what I need? You know, so they want to know, they might be more of a sophisticated type of prospect. And so, you know, they might need some more kind of technical or expectation setting for their goals. And that's why it's really important to talk about what their goals are and know what their expectations are before you even set them. How many people have you worked with before? That's a big trust factor. What are your credentials? Another trust factor. And these all tie into online reviews. I mean, when it comes down to reviews, trust is big. That's what you're trying to help them prove to their customers. How many clients do you have? So proof that you know what you're doing. How many clients in my industry do you serve? Kind of a question about whether or not you know the industry. And how will you handle the conflicts of interest? And so that's an interesting conversation, just talking about, you know, especially with local search, if you have clients that are within the same sort of area, and they're competing against each other, is that a conflict of interest? How do you handle those situations? Having kind of a plan when those questions come up. So the ingredients to your pitch, those are going to be a psychological trigger, a value proposition, and an irresistible offer. Now, remember, this is still focusing around the elevator pitch. When you get to those secondary pitches where you're trying to close or you're really getting closer to the proposal, that's going to be much more in depth. But so this is more of that kind of basic elevator pitch of just kind of getting them interested in what you're offering. And so with the psychological triggers, those are going to be a mental, emotional, or social response to a specific cue or trigger. Prospects willingly drop their mental and emotional filters in order to hear or experience what you have to say. So kind of getting into their head, empathizing or sympathizing with them about what their pain points are. The value proposition, so that promise of value made to the customers, outlining how the value will be delivered, experienced, and acquired. They want to know what's in it for them and how review management is going to help. And then the offer, which is that strong motivator, that trigger action that, you know, that delivers outcomes and results. And so these are the kind of, we're going to present a few different ideas on what potential offers you can consider when pitching review management. So the psychological triggers, what are they? Little inside out Pixar GIF there, but basically the triggers attract attention. There are a lot of triggers that you can use to attract attention. And so it's interesting. I always have these conversations with the writer of the Grade Us blog, and we talk about, you can either come from a positive area of what I can help you with, or a negative area, how I can relieve your pain. And so that can come in a variety of factors, whether that's, you know, drawing mystique, passion, alarm, prestige, power, trust, rebellion. Additionally, emotions like anger, fear, awe, joy, disgust, and anticipation. These are all motivators in terms of their business, basically growing their business or preventing them from losing business. That'll ultimately get them to want to consider your agency and the value that you're presenting. So when it comes to online review related triggers, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this when talking to customers, but when you start talking about reviews, they definitely feel strongly about those. When we were doing a case study with Dean Heasley of Nashville Marketing Systems, one thing that he talked about was with his customers, that reviews are something like with SEO, that's a kind of invisible service. Like, sure, you can show them the results in terms of tying it to their business goals and their revenue, but it takes a lot of time. And sometimes a lot of less sophisticated digital customers, they might not understand the value other than, you know, seeing their site appear in local ranking for a specific search query. But with reviews, it's much more visible and it can happen a lot quicker. So when you have that initial pitch conversation in the terms of the psychological triggers, think about their portfolios. whether they have a lot of negative reviews, whether they're not doing as well as their competitors. So bringing up their competitors' reviews can be a psychological trigger. Having no reviews at all. So either they're uncomfortable asking for reviews or giving their customers kind of a method to ask for reviews. And that's something that you're going to be able to help with. So they know they should be getting reviews, but they don't have them. That's where you're going to be able to help them and show them that you're going to take that off their plate. And then no recent reviews. And that's kind of a value proposition that we'll come into. But the truth is, if they haven't had a review in a month or in a year, someone else, you put them in the position or the mindset of their customers. How is their customer going to feel if they go to look at their reviews and their most recent review is from 6 months ago? The customer, the prospect is really quickly going to think about, well, what's going on with that business that no one's writing about them, neither good nor bad reviews. I think that's a huge psychological trigger for your prospects and something that you can bring up in terms of something that you can help them with. And so obviously this also, kind of ties into whether or not you have the ability to do the research ahead of time. And we'll go into some of those advanced research techniques later, but you can ask those probing questions before your pitch of, what's your review portfolio look like? What sites do you have reviews on? How many reviews do you have? When was your last review? And that really gets the prospects, kind of brain and the gears in their brain going. And it kind of gives you a cue of that really quick ability to talk about what value you're going to offer. So we're going to talk about now about that review management value. What are those types of aspects that you can offer to your potential prospect that will get them interested in your service? Because you just say reputation management, you just say review management, they might not understand and be able to piece it all together. You need to explain to them what that actually potentially entails. And this is still before we're getting to the proposal, right? So the value proposition is going to have 4 specific ingredients. It's going to be the appeal. For them, it's I want what you have to offer. How are you going to appeal to them? Exclusivity. I can't get what you're offering anywhere else. So that might be that they can't do it themselves or haven't done it themselves up until this point. Clarity, I understand what you're saying. So, with reviews as compared to SEO, especially with, people who haven't done digital marketing before, that's something that's a little easier to sell, but it's important that they understand that value that you're providing. And then credibility, which goes back to those objections and those fears and those questions about, can you do what you're going to say you're going to do? How can you actually help them get those reviews for their business? So when we talk about the online review related value and how you are able to pitch it to these prospects, there are a couple ways to go about it. You can go with the most kind of basic important value to their business, which is review management leads to new customers, getting them visibility on review sites, on search engines like Google. It helps them get social proof, which carries over to social media channels. So being able to use those positive reviews in your marketing, whether that's on Facebook, that's on Twitter, that's on any other social media site that you're already doing work and promotion on. Part 2 of the value is happy customers. Basically appreciating customers by responding to their positive reviews. That's the positive value that you're going to bring. So if you're doing review management and you do have happy customers who are leaving positive reviews, they want to feel validated. And so you're able to help your prospects by responding to those happy review customers and making them feel like they're valued by your business, which leads to that whole idea of customer retention. Once you've already had your customers, it's a lot easier to retain customers than than to get new ones. And one of those key techniques to retaining customers is making them feel valued. And one key part that you'll be able to do as an agency for your prospects in review management is making them feel good by, appreciating them with positive review responses. And then better business, which is improving the business of your customers. This one's a little harder, but I think there's a huge value for business owners who genuinely want to improve their business, is showing them that, if you do get a negative review, or if you get a 4-star review that highlights something that they need to improve upon, you're giving them a feedback channel to help them improve upon their business. And so that's a little tougher for prospects to hear, but you're giving them the tools to help them, and so it's basically turning that, when they come from the objection or the fear, you're turning that as a value proposition. And not only that, in terms of the services that you're offering and responding to positive, happy review customers, when you're responding to unhappy customers and reviews, because unhappy customers will find a way to leave a negative review on a business they didn't have a good experience with, that is an opportunity for you to help your prospects respond in a positive and a professional manner to either A, turn that customer around and turn them into a happy customer so they do ultimately change their negative review into a positive one, but also to show other potential prospects how you work with your customers, that the business owner cares about their customers and they're not just going to leave them hanging with a negative review that's not resolved. You can show this public facing positive response to a negative review and show how you care. And you, as the agency owner or the consultant offering this service, you're going to help your customers, basically your clients, talk to their customers in terms of a public facing way of how they're showing that value. Now, for the more technical, digital savvy customers that want to know how this ties into SEO, that's a lot easier. Reviews are huge in terms of SEO. You're hearing it constantly. If you're hearing anything from any sort of, digital marketing or local marketing specialist, is how reviews are increasing in value as a ranking factor. So what I pulled here are some local pack finder ranking factors from Moz and then from Local SEO Guide. And it just shows, here review signals as number 3, right behind the Google My Business signals and link signals. Review signals every year has increased on this list as a factor in terms of how they're going to appear on the local 3-pack or just in organic rankings in general. And then as GMB factors, Google My Business listings and from the Local SEO Guide, how you respond to the reviews are becoming more important. The text in your reviews, the quantity of the reviews, the freshness of the reviews, all of these aspects are contributing more and more to your SEO results. So for a more sophisticated customer in your pitch, you're going to want to say how review management is going to have a huge value add to your other SEO factors. And so how does your agency actually help in some of those kind of raw value propositions when you're pitching review management in the context of whether that's, any sort of digital marketing for their website, for their promotion, for their SEO, for their local search, for their social media marketing? You're really helping your clients 3 major factors. You're saving your clients time by having the system in place to generate reviews, monitor the reviews, and market their reviews by sharing them on social media or on their site. One thing that I didn't mention in the last value proposition aspect was the whole idea of marking up reviews with schema-friendly data structured markup. And the reason that helps for the more sophisticated customers is by using like the Grade Us review stream and marking up those positive reviews, then you have a much stronger chance of having the stars appear on your Google organic search ratings or rankings and listings. And I'll get into that. I'll show you a visual a little bit later, but that click-through rate's going to go up when you have stars on the organic search results. You're keeping your clients informed is a second major value proposition. So basically, by setting up an automated process with notifications and performance reports, your agency is going to let your clients know basically how they're doing on their reviews, how many they're earning on a month-by-month basis, because as we mentioned, the freshness of reviews are important. This isn't like a set it and let it get 100 reviews in a day and then you're good for a year type of situation. This is an ongoing process that like customers are going to want to see new and fresh reviews, or prospects are going to want to see on your client's review listings, fresh reviews that are going to inform their decision. We're going to go a little more into stats in a little bit as well. And then you're going to earn clients value in the form of money, visibility, and social capital. So you are like reviews are going to help your clients generate more customers, generate more sales, generate more leads, and generate more traffic. And so once you get to the proposal part of kind of closing the customer, you can tie the review generation and the review goals to those bigger business goals. So when you're positioning Grade Us, for instance, or any review management platform or review management service into the value proposition, think about the different services that you're going to be able to offer, whether that's managing reviews on behalf of your clients, requesting reviews on behalf of your clients. So setting up the email drip campaigns to request reviews that are going to be more effective than not doing anything and have a steady automated process for earning those reviews. Managing the reviews, so knowing when you do have new reviews so you can thank the happy customers and basically try to resolve the unhappy customers, whether you're using our segmenting layout options or you're not gating and you're just opening up the review generation to just the funnel to direct big buttons. You're offering a white labeled service that's invisible to your clients. So for your agency, you don't even have to say Grade Us, or if you want to offer a white label sort of platform, you're able to do it under your brand. And so it's invisible to your clients. They think that all of the types of services that you're offered are tied to you and not necessarily to the tools that you use, which is going to be that much more of a value proposition for your agency. The platform allows your agency to meet customers where they're at. So that's going to be important in terms of going back to the type of demographic that the customers of your clients have, whether they respond better to email, to text, or even just social media. You're going to be able to provide them all of these tools to meet them where their clients are at, test different areas, test different types of tools depending on the type of client that you have in the industry that they're in. You're creating a solution that will supplement their local and organic search results on behalf of the clients. So, we have a variety, I said earlier in the webinar. It's really interesting the way our different agency and consultants and resellers position review management, either as a kind of free foot in the door value proposition, bundled as part of their other services, whether it's a full bundle at like a premium level or bundling it as part of their SEO services, or it's just an add-on for your services as that kind of visual, kind of easy to see the quantity of reviews and the anecdotal value and quality there as part of the other bundles. Or for some of our resellers, that is just its own brand as review management because it has value on many different levels and impacts a business's bottom line. And then finally, it helps you provide supportive, rock solid, on-demand customer support. So basically providing support to your customers so they can effectively manage their reviews. This is especially effective if you are a reseller and you're providing a self-service sort of solution versus a managed solution. So, whether you're doing it on behalf of your clients or you're white labeling a platform and having them manage themselves, but still providing good support from your agency to them. And so now we're going to talk about a couple of the different ways that you can offer this service, different things that you can try. We're really big on data-backed measurement and trial and error not trial and error, but trying different experiments and letting the data show what works. But when it comes to marketing and sales, there are a lot of different offers that you can really try out and see what is working. So whether that's a free trial offer to your clients, providing bonuses, like I mentioned, say you're doing SEO services, you're using review management as a bonus on top of that, using discounts to get them in the door, really either starting at a higher kind of MSRP, if you will, and then discounting that as a value proposition and an offer that makes them feel like they're getting a deal. Vanishing offers, so doing them seasonally. Countdown timers, that's more of a digital thing. So having a landing page and using a countdown timer where the offer, is going to go away. Guarantees. It's a little more risky and it's controversial in the kind of digital marketing world, but saying, I'm going to double your reviews by this period, or I'm going to get you a certain amount of reviews, or I'm going to increase your aggregate rating by a certain amount. That can be really effective. It's just you want to make sure that you're delivering. And that kind of goes back to knowing who your prospects are. If they have a ton of reviews, and they're a high volume business or low volume business, but they have 500 reviews, it's going to be hard to double 500 reviews in a month. Whereas if they're maybe like a lawyer or in the wedding service industry and they only have 10 to 12 reviews, that might be a lot more realistic, especially if they've never done any sort of review acquisition campaigns in the past. Warranties, I know in our industry, people are scared to do that, basically saying, we guarantee you'll get, increase your aggregate rating or you get your money back. A compelling promise, kind of what we're talking about here, and I'll show you some examples in the next few slides. Prestige and or social proof. So basically, like for the review stream, basically sharing the testimonial and the 5-star reviews on their website, or one of the most exciting value adds of Grade Us, for instance, is sharing on social media. So having Facebook reviews shared at 5 stars that come up in their Facebook feed or their Twitter feed. Exclusive offers. So only a certain amount of clients or the first 5 clients are going to get this type of offer. The bundled opt-ins, the VIP or wait list saying that, we don't have anything available. Glad you appreciate this, Eric. We don't have anything available. So maybe that you want to get on our wait list as kind of a exclusivity option there. Contests and sweepstakes or takeaways. So now we're going to put this all together, this psychological trigger, this value proposition, and this offer. And so we're going to go through 10 offers. These are just numbers. I think a lot of it really is based on your industry and the types of prospects that you're talking to and the types of performance that you've had in the past. I feel like as you work with more clients, you'll have a good sense of what's reasonable for the clients that you're working with. But so an example of combining the triggers, the value, and the offer. So here are a few that we have here. We are blank agency. Our local search campaigns will flood your business with 5-star reviews. We'll give you a 30% lift in conversions or your campaign is free. That's kind of like one of those warranties or guarantees. Number 2, our review management agency generates X% more revenue for your business per month. Find out how. That kind of seeds that conversation for the next one where you can start to really pitch a lot of your services. Remember, this is still focusing on that elevator pitch. Rick here with XYZ agency. Our review management campaigns generate revenue in 2 months or less. So that's kind of the setting the time limit and the value proposition there. The best part, the first month of review management is free. We actually do have a lot of our customers will offer a 14-day, free trial of review management, or we guarantee that you'll get this many reviews in a certain amount of days. And as I mentioned earlier, because reviews are an ongoing sort of value, and you'll be able to kind of position that in later conversations of how, having a review within the last week or last month is more valuable than a year down the line. You don't really have to be completely scared about offering this free offer at the get-go, because reviews really do depreciate in value over time. And so, if they leave you after the first 14 days because they thought, oh, well, I've got 10 reviews or I got 20 reviews and I'm good to go, that's for you to position and explain how, well, no, This isn't a set and let it thing. This is an ongoing thing that's going to keep you ahead of your competition. Our local search and review marketing agency will produce 1/3 more leads for your business than any other lead source that you have. The first 3 clients to sign up for a 1-month trial will receive a free X advertising credit. So like certain amount of money in Google Ads credits. The idea here is tying it to a lot of the business metrics. So especially if you're focusing on Google reviews, and that might be tied to your appointments if it's a service industry and a certain amount of calls and those types of leads from your business, you can basically tie, oh, well, if we increase your positive reviews and we hit certain thresholds, chances are it's going to increase the value and the amount of lead, like the value to your business and the conversion rate of your prospects to actually call in, and then you're potentially can help your clients turn those leads into sales, and that's a whole other conversation. But anecdotally, and from one of the case studies of Great Us, one of our customers, Peter Wilson of Biz Marketing, who I think may be in this webinar, he was told us a really great story anecdotally about how for one of his dental clients, they basically generated a ton of calls from their reviews, and all the people, the receptionists, when she got these calls, would ask, how did you hear about us? And the person would say, oh, well, we saw you on Yelp, or we saw you on Google, and you had great reviews, and we had to give you a try. I actually had that recently. It's turned me off and turned me on to different customers. I was looking for a new general practitioner. So I went on Google, and it's funny, on one review site on Health Grades, they would have great reviews. And I got really excited about, working with that, or, going and scheduling an appointment with that doctor. And then I went to Google and I looked at their reviews, and the administration of that specific clinic were awful, and it was a real turnoff. And so those things matter. People are using reviews more and more, obviously, when they're actually choosing who they're going to work with. And anecdotally, those work. I think when you're having that conversation with prospects, finding out about anecdotally if they've had any experiences in terms of working or getting feedback from clients and negative or positive reviews has an impact. So moving on, our review management agency turned a $400K store into a $7.3 million store in 38 months using nothing but reviews. This quiz shows how we did it. I think it's really cool, the idea of using other lead magnets or collateral, especially for a lot of us marketers who create that sort of content. It's really fun to continually move them down the funnel, or use that on your website and then have the quiz and kind of drive them there with review related questions. One of the other case studies that we did from Dean Heasley, who I mentioned earlier, he talked about one of a mortgage client that he had, and that made the whole review management service worth it when they nailed a client with $30 million in revenue. And so, that one big win and that one big client for a lot of you folks here can really make, a whole quarter. So, showing that to other prospects about how you were able to increase their value by landing a big, client for your client, because in a lot of ways we are B2B2B, that is, a great value proposition as well. We've talked, actually, Eric, we're going to talk about doing some quizzes in a few future blog posts, but we haven't done any specific. So some others, I'm going to start moving a little further along because I do want to get into some of the advanced techniques that I think are really interesting. Putting XYZ agency to the test will quadruple your 5-star reviews across each of the 4 major review profiles, or your review management campaign is free. That's one that's obviously very much tied to the volume of reviews that your customer, your client, potential prospect already has. If they have 4 reviews, it's a lot easier to quadruple that than if they have 500 reviews. We're XYZ agency, the #1 rated review management agency in Raleigh, North Carolina. We routinely double our clients' leads and revenue. However, we only take on 10 clients at a time. We have 2 slots left, first come, first serve. This really is true for a lot of agencies. that, fill up their client roster. And this is a point of when you start to increase your client service, or how much it costs, the pricing for your service, because you only have certain amount of time in the day. This is especially the case for our customers who offer a managed service as opposed to a self-service option. So when you're providing managed services and you're doing a lot of this, yes, we help you actually automate a lot of the processes, but there is still a lot of overhead for the people managing it, for you managing it on behalf of your clients. We do, as agencies scale, we do have opportunities for self-service as you white label the dashboard, for instance, and then you're able to scale because then you're basically providing a little more support. Maybe you do an onboarding managed session to get them started, but then they're really self-servicing, and then you can offer to a lot more clients, but then the margin and the pricing goes lower because you're not providing the same real, hand-holding managed service. Our review management services increase your revenue on average by a third, guaranteed your money back. Another offer of trying that kind of guarantee warranty. Our last review management client had a 232% increase in foot traffic. Our campaigns produced 3 times more revenue than other standard review management campaigns. Here's why our campaigns are better. This is for more sophisticated agencies that are actually helping with brick and mortar stores and have ways to manage the foot traffic or have those business insights from your clients. You could have many different results in the other areas of your agency for your clients, and you can kind of tie that into your review management offer. And then finally, XYZ agency will double your 5-star reviews in X 10 days. The first 3 clients who contact us get an X% discount. And that's kind of that urgency trigger and the offer. So kind of saying that this is an expiring, a vanishing offer, take advantage of it, only, limited supplies. So that's one option. So this is now outside the elevator pitch. I'm going to talk about a few different kind of techniques that you can do that require a little more research and work on your end, but is much more effective in terms of converting your prospect, because everybody values when you take the time to know about them. And one interesting thing, Dan Schur on Twitter the other day did a tweet where it was funny. People thought he was being sarcastic. He basically was saying, for the clients who I spent, an hour to 4 hours of my time creating this detailed prospect proposal, thanks a lot for just saying thanks and no. And people thought he was being sarcastic, saying, okay, well, as an agency, you're investing all this time, just giving me a thanks is completely dismissive. But Dan's point was, it's better than to get no response at all. But one of the responses I saw that I really liked was this other gentleman said, you mean that not sarcastically, right? You're meaning that in a positive sense. And that's, Dan was like, yeah, absolutely. I mean it positively. I genuinely appreciate it. And the other guy said something which really resonated with me, which is I'm happy to put in the time and effort to win your business. I care about my customers and I want to help them succeed. If it's not the right fit, that is fine for me too. I'll refer you to other people. It's really about that help economy. And I think a lot of the agencies who have that mindset succeed. And so coming from this perspective of, I'm going to put in the time to really research your company, know your industry before I do my more comprehensive pitch and before we get to the proposal, I think is going to help you out in the long term. And so I want to give you, the thought process behind that is, I want to give you some more tools on how you can help your potential prospects, either help other people, because the other thing is, if you put in a lot of work and it's just not the right fit, that prospect might not use you, but they might refer you to someone else where it is the right fit. So the 5 different tools that I'm going to kind of run through here are prospect review portfolio audits, personalized pitch decks, competitor research, case studies, and then what your actual service offering is. The prospect review portfolio analysis. So this is actually a tool that Grade Us generates. I think it makes a lot of sense visually. And basically what you'll see on this left-hand side is this review management marketing score. And it really highlights some of the issues that you can work on in the review management portfolio. So basically the idea is you put in their name, their phone number, their zip code, and it spits out this prospect report that shows them where they do have their reviews, the aggregate rating of their reviews, and the distribution of their reviews, as well as the score. And it highlights, some of the issues. So for instance, in this case, significant numbers of negative reviews. We want the positive reviews to outweigh the negative reviews. Spotty recent activity across all review sites. So that goes back to that freshness and the value of recent reviews. And that's something that in this prospect report, you'll be able to include. Now, you don't need to use the Grade Us one. You can do your own research on their review portfolio. Visit the major review sites like Google, Facebook, Yelp, Better Business Bureau, and then all the industry specific sites. And there's, an industry review site for almost every industry at this point, whether it's Avvo for the legal industry, HomeAdvisor or Angie's List or Thumbtack for home services, TripAdvisor for hotels, Health Grades for healthcare and hospitality. And that's kind of where you differentiate yourself as an expert in the industry too. So providing the review portfolio and showing, almost as a review audit, and we have a great blog post on Grade Us about how to do a more complex review audit with a spreadsheet that you can put together. And I'll include that in the last slide, so you can go and start working on that if you wanted to. But that's a major investment that really pays off and helps you set the goals and helps visualize for your clients where they're not meeting the mark and where you can help them. The personalized pitch deck with statistics. So statistics are key, and I think a lot of business owners really, it resonates with them when you can put some of these stats and these numbers behind it. So when you're putting together a more complex, it's hard, you can't be in an elevator pitch and just rattle off some statistics. I mean, some people with photogenic memories are really good at studying can do that, but when you're having that face-to-face one-on-one conversation and you don't have a visual aid, it's a lot harder for these statistics to resonate. But when you're putting together a pitch deck template or a presentation, these statistics are going to be insanely valuable when you're talking to your prospects. So, and there are a lot on there. This is another resource that we have for Grade Us, and we have a blog post with a lot of these stats to include in your own personalized pitch deck. Is, businesses displaying ratings and reviews experience an average revenue uplift of about 18%. Northwestern University's Spiegel Research Center found reviews could increase conversion rates by as much as 270%. Just like research-backed statistics. 30% of consumers list responding to reviews as key when judging a business. So, and you can say, they might object and say, oh, well, that's not the case for my industry. That's true in 2019. Every industry is evaluated by reviews. And that might be surprising to some of these industries, but it genuinely is the case. 44% of consumers say a review must be written within 1 month to be relevant. And so that's some stats-based backup that kind of talks about what I've been saying earlier about the freshness of reviews and how an actual prospect of your clients looks at the review portfolio. And that's completely separate from, the fact that Google cares about the recency of reviews in terms of the rankings and appearing on the local pack. 68% of consumers trust reviews more when they see both good and bad scores. So I want to address that one specifically. And one of the objections that we've heard come up, which is tricky with Google in the past, Grade Us has one of our high value propositions has been using the review funnel in terms of segmenting your customers, making sure the happy customers go get the option to leave the review site, leave a positive review on the review site, and a unhappy customer is actually sent internally to a feedback form. So you get the chance to recover them before they write the negative review. Now, that's still effective for most review sites, but 6 to 8 months ago, I believe Google came out and in their terms and conditions said you can't review gate, which is the idea of segmenting the reviews. And so on Grade Us, we actually have this direct to review site funnel that doesn't segment, but business owners might be scared of that still. And so that's when you use a statistic like this, where it's 68% of consumers trust reviews more when they see both good reviews and bad scores. Now, we're not saying that all the reviews are one-star reviews. That's a huge red flag to your customers that they need to improve their business. If you're getting a ton of one-star reviews, you either have a bad service or bad support or bad reviews, and that's a big fear, and that's a challenge. And there are some deeper issues with the actual business that, that's up to you and your agency whether you want to help them on. But we're talking about more like, it's okay to get a couple 3-star reviews. It's okay if you get 1 2-star review or 1 1-star review if your client, and you're helping them, are responding to this review with a professional response and helping to recover their experience and helping to learn from that bad experience. Now, we're getting towards the end of the hour. I do want to respect everybody's time, but I don't want to rush through this, so I'm going to keep going. I do understand if people have to leave, this will be recorded, and I will be publishing this on a blog post on Tuesday, but let's continue to move along. We are getting towards the end. Competitor research. So, actually getting screenshots, searching for in Google or on the various review sites, whether it's in their industry and their area, or putting in something in Google like, if it's an ice cream parlor, my favorite in Princeton was Halo Pub, putting in ice cream near me, ice cream and the location, industry and the location, industry and the reviews, checking that out, seeing how they actually rank in terms of the quantity and the quality and the ranking on the review sites, as well as whether or not they appear in the local 3-pack. If they don't, that's a huge value proposition on why your review management services will be able to help them and their business bottom line. Case studies. So basically showing, and this goes back to the trust and that psychological trigger of knowing that you're credible, and having a case study showing how you helped a customer increase their reviews by quantity and their review rating, which you can do with a Grade Us report. And then a other part is, also increasing the calls to their establishment. So how you tie this to the other metrics of the services that you're offering. So increasing the rankings on search engine results, increasing the calls or the sales to their establishment using like call tracking, for instance, getting them included in the local Google Local Pack, any anecdotal evidence, including how did you hear from us, of people actually mentioning the reviews and the calls, or earning stars on organic search results, which I showed the image here of if you're using schema-friendly data structured markup on your reviews on your website. Now, this doesn't work on your homepage, but for most other pages, like your reviews page or most of your product pages, if you implement that data structure markup for the reviews, the stars will actually appear on the listing, and that increases trust of your customers, increases the click-through rate. If you have an image to show them that you can help them with that, and there's no guarantee that it'll help because it is up to Google, but that can happen. And in order to get that, you would use the data structure markup of the reviews. So case studies are really effective to show the value that you've provided to other clients that you potentially can show to them. So that gets to the end of it, wrapping it up. I have all of these links, which will be included in the slides, which will be included in the recording and the blog post, which I'll publish on Tuesday. I hope you did find this valuable and are able to implement some of these different strategies, whether you are doing it as an elevator pitch in a networking situation or on an outbound brief call, or it's the kind of second call pitch where you're able to provide a more comprehensive pitch presentation using a deck, or sending over an email or a prospect report and having all of these different visual cues and metrics and stats and value propositions. There's a lot of ways to sell review management, but I think the key is really to get a sense of your prospects, understanding the context of the situation, understanding your industry, and understanding the value. So some of the blog posts, and I always recommend please check out the Grade Us blog. We're always trying to provide valuable, actionable content for you to use when you're selling review management. We do a lot around agencies, consultants, and resellers. So, we have the case studies, we have that review management audit post that I pointed out there, the ROI of online review management, which talks about the whole idea of how reviews can, generate more revenue, and it can also be a sort of loss aversion. So the idea is if you have negative reviews, you're actually losing money. Check out that ROI post. Creating your online review management marketing case study. So that's for agencies. That's what you're going to want to think about for creating your own case study. Online review marketing analogies. That's just 3 examples of how to kind of break down review management to layman's terms. When people are doing a lot of digital marketing in general, they talk about the idea of creating a digital storefront. How nobody's going to be able to find your brick and mortar business if you don't have signage on the outside. The same applies to digital marketing, whether that's having a website, having a Google My Business listing, and having, reviews and stars in the windows, if you will. And then the resources that we provide for the review management pitch deck. The white label version is in your resources section on Grade Us. So feel free to download that and change that up, but there are a bunch of stats on that page. If you do have any questions that I'm not able to get to, I will take a few questions if anyone has any as we get to the end here. But please don't hesitate to reach out to our team at sales@grade.us. We're always happy to, talk review management or, just talk about how you can sell the specific service to your clients, or as a reseller brand, the white label capabilities, the different review management services that you can offer. And also feel free to just send attention to Garrett. I'm always happy to hop on a call. I'm actually starting the process of doing some market research, so would love to have conversations with anybody here who's interested in just talking review management and conversations you're having with your client. But that's about it for me. At this point, if anybody does have any questions, I'd love to take them. If not, we will wrap this up. The best way to contact me, Eric, is Garrett, Garrett, @grade.us. Feel free to reach out to me. Always love to have those conversations, help out where I can. I really do appreciate them. And like I said at the beginning of this call, I'm a local search marketing geek. I love talking about stuff beyond search marketing. I'm currently doing this data analytics marketing course. So I've been diving into Google Tag Manager. If you catch my last webinar on how you can use Google Tag Manager with Grade Us, talking about, other types of content marketing. I love it. So that's been it. Oh, we do have one question. Okay, so Andy asked, according to Yelp's terms of service, they are not okay with businesses asking their customers for reviews, assuming businesses are only asking their happy customers for reviews. Therefore, are you recommending to not include Yelp on the review landing page? I think it's a really great question, Andy. And my kind of perspective in terms of any sort of digital marketing strategy has to do with, I'm a white hat technique type of guy. So I think it's always in your best interest to follow the terms of service of the various sites that you work with. My philosophy with Grade Us is we think it's up to you as a business to choose whether or not you're going to follow other people's rules. So we haven't prevented people from adding Yelp for asking for reviews. I actually, haven't seen a ton of consequences for it. I know generally business owners have mixed feelings about Yelp reviews. I think the key is really understanding the consequences of what that might mean. So understanding that, if you are review gating on Google, or if you are soliciting any type of review on Yelp, you potentially could lose those reviews or have them filtered or be penalized in some way in terms of your listing. And then ultimately deciding whether or not morally, that's how you want to operate or not operate, or whether your clients are comfortable with that. I think as long as you're transparent up front, that's the most important thing, and being true to yourself. So I think it's up to you. I think that I don't agree with Yelp's practices because I don't think that it's fair to business owners to not be able to ask your customers for reviews one way or the other, but technically those are their rules. And so I'll always say, follow the rules of those people because there are potential consequences. So I think that's about it. Thank you again. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. My name is Garrett, and I'm the content marketing manager at Grade Us. And keep your eyes peeled to our blog. And if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. And I'm going to sign off here. Thanks again, folks. Have a good one.